This is the Ask Faleskini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Faleskini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Faleskini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Faleskini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Faleskini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Faleskini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Faleskini.
Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Chantal Landreville from Ontario. Chantal is an author and love and relationship coach. Chantal, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story? And don't forget to mention your book that was just recently published.
Yes. My book released on Valentine's Day, a book on love, the day of love. I'll talk about that. Yeah, it's perfect timing. It was a great book launch as well. I'll never see Valentine's Day the same way ever again. So my book called Raise Your Love Signal, it's a guide to attracting and keeping the love of your life, because at the end of the day, it's what we all want, right? It's so difficult to actually make sure you find your person. We want to make sure that you're able to succeed in relationship to keep that relationship going. And as I was writing the book, and I'll share a little bit about my story, obviously, but one of the key component for me that made me realize I needed to write this book was, we've never been taught how to be in relationship. Like, these are not skills that are taught to us in school. All the social skills that I say that we learn through life's ups and downs are not taught to us. So through my own personal journey, I was single for almost 18 years, constantly struggling and not able to attract emotional available partners. The one thing that saved me through these 18 years, I was always fascinated with love, dating, and relationships. In my early 20s, human behavior in general was just something I was fascinated in. And in my other life, before I became a love coach, I was in sales and I worked in the wine business for almost 20 years, which is very, very relationship driven. You're always dealing with people. And I realized that I had a talent, and that was listening, active listening. And when you are actively listening to other people and you're curious about them, people will literally vomit their lives to you and like just confide. And the beautiful thing that I loved was, yes, I would have that contact with that person and listen to them, but in the background, because I was always consuming self-development and learning and trying to see why were people reacting or doing these things, I would actually share that knowledge that I would learn or apply it to the conversation that I was having. And it would always, I'd get phone calls later saying, you know what, thank you so much for this conversation. It really helped me. This was great. So I was like, oh, this is nice. So I would say I always was a natural confidant and loved to just talk people through the stuff that they were going through. So I was in a relationship very, very young, from 19 to 26. And I moved from a very, very small town to a big city because of my curiosity, because I didn't fit in the mold, because I wanted to see everything that was out there. And I met a man that was a little bit older than me, and that taught me everything about big city stuff, including culture, wine, food. So I had this admiration towards him. And then a little later on in my relationship, when I started sitting into more of who I was and in my self-confidence, I realized that this was being an issue in our relationship, where my boyfriend at the time felt that it was a competition because I had a big personality, and he saw that as an issue. And I realized, oh, this is not very healthy if I can't be with someone that doesn't really accept who I am as a person. And I mean, this is the beauty of things, because when we're in our 20s, we're getting to know who we are. That's why I say that finding love later in life is actually a gift because you worked on yourself. So I left that relationship, and I wrote a list of everything I wanted to experience and try and live through. That list took me almost 10 years, sadly. And when the day I woke up and I was like, ooh, I'm 38 years old now, I'm ready to actually find someone I want to build a long-term relationship with. And that took me to a whole other journey of realizing my patterns and why I had been attracting non-emotional available partners. And I continued to do that until I actually figured out what was my problem. So to circle back to the book, it's literally the best of everything I've learned over the last 20 years, and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it cost me, because I would, attend every conference, speaking, retreats, name it. I've tried it. I've experienced it, that I have applied to my own personal life, and I still do today, that have gotten me where I am, and with the results that I've experienced, including finding an amazing partner that we've been together for 5 years now, and we're thriving in our relationship. And the only reason that we thrive in the relationship is because I learned the tools that it requires to actually succeed in relationship. Because you can find the right person at any given time, but it doesn't mean that you'll succeed in your relationship if you haven't built that toolbox, or you don't know how to navigate through the ups and downs of life and all the stuff that keeps hitting you when you do get into relationship. Throw in kids, financial issues, the stress, working hard. So yes, that's a little bit of my story.
Okay, I would like you, as an expert, I would like to know, are there a lot of differences between what's going on for men and for women in the field of dating, and also in the you said that the key is to keep the relationship, not just attract the relationship. So most of the coaches focus on attracting the relationship. So, what is the catch? Why you need to focus on attracting and keeping it simultaneously?
Well, the goal is to be with someone. If you are looking to find your person, don't you want to stay in a healthy relationship? And I think that we've been so conditioned about what love actually is and being in a relationship. So when you think about everything we've been taught, and that is still what we were seeing, it's this rom-com, Disney-fied, that love is such this beautiful thing. And, you have your Prince Charming, and you run off on a white horse into the sunset. The movie ends there. It doesn't continue on what happens when they have kids, and when they, they go through the trials of tribulations of life. So I would say that most people that want to be in a relationship, and this is something that I talk about in my book, first of all, you need to ask yourself, why do you want to be in relationship? And understand the why properly. It has to be for the right reasons. If you're looking to be in a relationship to be fulfilled because you feel lonely, these are not the right reasons. And I also think that people don't understand the meaning of relationship is not about me, it's about us. And this is where I see a lot of people failing, is that they always make it about themselves. And a relationship is two people coming together. And I actually say it's a threesome. It's you, your partner, the relationship. And the relationship has an entity of its own. And you always have to think, how is my behavior? How are the words I'm going to say, my ego, my reaction going to service the relationship? And I would say, when you learn to ask yourself that question when you're going through the motions, 98% of the time, you're just like, oh, this is not about my partner. It's not about, it's probably me, my baggage. I'm not getting what I want, the way I want, how I want. I had an expectation. I made an assumption. And everything I'm talking about now is not just applicable to romantic relationships. It's definitely applicable to all kinds of relationships that we have with another human being, where we tend to have expectations and make assumptions about other people. So I would say that, if you are constantly looking to meet and attract your person, number one, ask yourself, why do I want to be in a relationship? And what is your definition about love? Because oftentimes our definition about love is, as I said earlier, it's this rom-com, romanticized idea. We are literally in love with the idea of being in love, and that's not what will sustain a long-term relationship. So if you're looking always for the lust, the passion, the quick fires that burn out quickly, I'm not saying you're not allowed. If you're happy in that world and want to stay there, good for you. I'm talking about, I wanted to create and build something with someone that I could actually even build my fire, where it wasn't, and not, it's not, I call them straw fires. It's better in French. Des feux de paille is straw fires, where, everything lights up really, really quickly, but it then dies down as quickly. And that's where a lot of people get trapped to that sensation, right? That serotonin, that's all these feelings of excitement. And we tend to get hooked and not invest. And that's why I go back again, ask yourself the reflective question, why do I want to be in a relationship? And what does love actually mean to me? And what do I want my relationship with love to be? If you're able to...
I would like to ask you something. You're hinting at it, at least I think so. So is there a conscious and subconscious component to what we're looking in a partner?
Yes. So I call it the triangle effect. So there's a massive difference between what you think you want, what you actually attract, and what is actually right for you. And we tend to stay in this angle. And this is why we keep failing and not succeeding, because oftentimes what we think we want is not aligned with what we attract. And it's not necessarily meant that that's the right thing for you. And I'll give you the perfect example. I was always attracted to the bad boy type A, a lot like me, big personality, and it just did not work. It did not work for me. It would be that straw fire, very passionate, and then no investment in emotional security, vulnerability, always, power struggling within the relationship, not wanting to compromise and come together as a team. It was always like individually, yeah, we want to stay individuals. We don't really want to build this team together. So I had to change my mindset to actually attract something different. So I opened my mind to dating outside of my comfort zone, which is where a lot of people tend to stick to, let's say if you're always attracted, tall, I need somebody that's tall, that's dark haired, blue eyes. You're limiting everything that's outside, and it's about the person. It's not about the relationship, how you want to grow and evolve in a relationship. So you need to open your horizons and date outside your comfort zone. And then the second example, and this is scientifically proven, it's data. I was listening to this a couple weeks ago, that you know how they say that arranged marriages actually have a higher success rate, and this is why. Because what we think we want is the thing. So this guy is a matchmaker out of the UK, and he was actually saying that he would ask people, what do you want? So what do you want? Give me your value system and whatever. So example, the person would say, I'm Christian, I'd like to go to the church every weekend. I don't drink. I like to eat well. I have to hike every other day. Okay. 10 days later, they asked this person, so tell me about your week. How was your weekend? What did you do? Oh my God, I went on this binge drinking. I ate my sorrows away. I stayed home. I didn't do anything. So we're not aligned with what we think we want or say that we want. We don't walk the talk. Where in arranged marriages, the people that actually arrange the person for you are people that know you so well. They know you so well. So they actually arrange you with your value system. So does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because people know, so the people that are arranging marriages know what you need and what you will be needing in a couple of years, because they have usually seniority, and they know exactly what is needed for a long-lasting relationship, and what background need to be, the bride needs to be, and what,
Yes.
so they check all this, so they make much better match than any dating app where
Yes.
you just say, okay, he needs to be 6'2" and like this sport body, and
Exactly. There's a chapter in the book that I talk about having that vision of what you're looking for, how important it is, and the big difference between what you think you want and what you need. Most people think, well, it happens all the time. I ask clients, do you know what you want? Absolutely. And let me tell you, in an 8 billion planet, it's funny how everybody kind of has the same description on what they're looking for. Someone fun, that's financially well off, that loves to cook, that loves to travel, but then I'm like, let's narrow it down. How do you want to grow and evolve in relationship? Not what you want from this person. And again, being in a relationship is not about you, it's about us. So what do you feel you need to grow and evolve long-term with this person? And that's where people are like, oh, I never actually took the time to think about this, because, sexiness, tallness, knowing him how to cook or not is not what's going to sustain a long-term relationship when you're going through, again, the trials of tribulations of life. It's how somebody shows up for you. It's how somebody treats you. It's how somebody communicates with you. It's how somebody listens to what you're saying when you're sharing your feelings that things are not going right for you and is solution focused or not. These are things that people do not take the time to think about at all. So it's all about seeing the bigger picture.
You mentioned movies earlier, and I would like to ask you if you agree with the thesis that the biggest challenge right now for most people is that they watch a lot of series and a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And the movies must be fun, engaging, and all this. And life is usually hard work. And no behind the scenes in the movies, but a lot behind the scenes going on in the real life.
Yes.
This movie narrative that people are trying to live, also huge problem in dating, because I can tell as a coach for business people, most of, let's say, under 40s, they would like to live a movie. They don't want to have a company that runs and go through all trial and tribulations, as you call it. They would just like to have a movie-like company, and that's it. And they don't care what it takes to get there.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Business, money, love, same thing. People want that magic blue pill to have, like, the beauty and the quick fix. Well, welcome to life. It doesn't exist. It's like, it's as simple as that. I'm sorry. So everything I teach, and even what I talk about in my book, there's nothing romantic or sexy about it. It's a reality check, and we have to kind of like relearn what we've been taught and conditioned about love and being in a relationship if we want to thrive. And again, I'll take the time to say this. It has nothing to do with just romantic relationship. So I had to actually do an article for what are the 2024 dating trends. And they were asking me to look into the different generations, including Gen Z, which I was like, oh my God, I need to dive here and do some serious research. And I did, and I'm happy I did, because I noticed, as different as it can be from one generation to the other, there's one common denominator, whether you're 20 years old or whether you're 75. We all have this. And that is, there's never been a need and a desire to have more in-depth human connection, like never more than now. But at the same time, there is a complete disconnect on how we invest to actually develop that connection. So there's two ways of developing human deep connection. One, it's making time, giving time to the person, getting to know that person. Two is making them feel safe that they can actually be vulnerable, open up, share about their lives, their past baggage, and how we deal with things and why I react the way I do. And this is the disconnect, because we do not want to invest the time. We want the quick fix. We want the quick fix. So the only way to experience that is being curious, investing time, and making a safe space for other people. And I've come to realize people complain all the time. It's so hard dating out there, and people are not this and people are not that. You need to take ownership first. You need to change your attitude, how you're going to show up for other people and show interest in other people. It starts with us. It starts with us, because if we keep doing this, it'll never change. And second, you also need to call people out when they're not being they're showing up with a bad behavior, they're not treating you right. And I'm not saying to call them out in a mean way. There's a way to say, I don't appreciate, that you text me this way, or I the hey or the yo, or, I'm a woman. I want to be treated, like a woman, not a 14-year-old exchanging in a backyard school thing. So I think that we really need to take more ownership of all of that to transform and change how we invest our relationships.
As a love and relationship coach, would you say that having an accountability partner that will help you with your first thinking about yourself, what you want, and then how you go about your relationship, is that important? How important is to have accountability partner, not just someone that will give you tips and teach you some tricks?
I think it's absolutely amazing. And one of the things that I talk about also in the book is that when we are not used to doing something and we're trying to develop a new habit, let's say communication, being vulnerable, for example, this is a muscle that we don't know. So it's kind of like if you wanted a six-pack, you would need to build and develop that muscle. And once you have reached the six-pack, you need to maintain it, because if not, you'll lose the six-pack. Unless you're naturally born with it, it's not going to happen. So these are the same things. If you want and are looking for more in-depth or vulnerability or communication, just start trying it out on a day-to-day space, on a small scale in every other area of your life. So let's say if you struggle communicating your needs, or you struggle saying no, you're a yes man or a yes woman, how can you integrate that practice in every area of your life? It might start with your kids. It might start at work with your colleague. You need to build a muscle, so then when you do get into relationship, the muscle has been developed and it gets easier for you. I had to do that with vulnerability. So accountability, in my case, when I worked on my vulnerability, I had told a friend, this is what's happening. I want to work on this. I need your support. And here's what I need from you. And then that went from one friend to a second friend to a third friend. And then I started being able to be vulnerable at work, because a year later, I was like, wow, this is much better, not having to deal with everything on my own all the time. I started not being afraid of saying, I can't do it on my own, or I need help. So by the time I got into my relationship, where the vulnerability component piece of it is much more in depth, I was ready. I was ready to deal with it. I was ready not to self-sabotage and retract to old ways. And that's why having that support system, whether that's with a coach, with a friend, you need to figure out, but we all need accountability. It's the only way that, we're reminded, we don't forget. And I'll take it even further. When I started dating my partner, one of the things that I said, I shared with him, I'm not looking to experience a relationship like 99% of people out there. I want to have this long-term thriving relationship, but this means one thing: we need to hold each other to high standards. Are you ready to hold each other in our relationship with really high standards, which means work, investing, and holding each other accountable when things are like going down or we're like falling off the track? And we still do that 5 years in. We hold each other to really high standards, and it's been massively transformational on the quality of our relationship.
Amazing. I would like your insight in another topic that is dear to me and is good. So you're talking just about how people can learn about and exercise good relationship, quality relationship. Are there people that are natural talent that don't need to exercise?
You mean just, can you clarify a little bit more what you're saying?
Yes.
Sorry.
Are there people that are just, they don't need to invest a lot because they are born with being able to build a lasting relationship, and they are also accountable and they know how to do it, or they got it from home and they just want to replicate it in their own relationship?
Yeah.
Would you estimate that there might be maybe 10% of people that are natural talent for this? What's your estimate? How do you see it?
Honestly, I haven't seen, I mean, look at the examples. I can always count on the examples of great relationships on one hand. Like, it's very, very minute. And I would even say, even for someone like me that studies this, that practices this, I still fall off the rails sometimes, and I need to catch myself. I just have really, really strong awareness to, not fall off the rail for like a month. It's like a day or two. So I think that whether you're natural at it or not, or you have the talent to be, we always change, evolve, and grow. And I think that there's no one perfect. So no, I would say that we always need to get refreshed and continuously be caught on things. So no, I'm not sure about that. And I just use myself as an example because I've learned this through the years. I practice it, and I still sometimes catch myself like, ooh, you're retracting old ways. So yeah, it's just living life in every way, whether you're in business and family, there's always something that comes to you that you need to learn from. So it's how you choose to learn and grow from it, instead of staying, oh, why is this happening to me, or playing the victim mode, right? I always ask myself that question. It's like, okay, this happened. How can I grow? And what do I need to learn? And maybe I need to ask myself these questions again, like but it's always about, how can I grow? How can I learn? What did I need to evolve in?
Okay. Thank you for all these great insights. Is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Maybe you can share any quick tip or trade secret with us.
Trade secrets. There's a lot of them. And, you might stop me if we don't have time, but you mentioned before we got into the call where if relationship had an effect with where you come from childhood or not. And that's a great tip, is that if you are constantly doing the same thing, or the same thing keeps happening to you, like, for example, I was attracting unemotional available partners, you need to ask yourself the question, why is this happening? And often everything of why you show up in relationship, and again, not just in a romantic relationship, is definitely rooted from childhood. So you need to ask yourself, how did I grow up in my family? Like, what was the relationship with my mom and dad, and my relationship with them individually, to see what you've seen? Because between the age of 0 and 6, everything is decided for you. You come in pure into the world, full of love, but you're already being told, don't do this, don't cry then, don't. So your subconscious mind and your beliefs, by the time you hit adulthood, has already been decided for you. So it's really important to understand what those are, to understand why you show up in a relationship or not the way you do. And that was a massive game changer that I only understood when I turned, like, in my early 40s. I wish I would have known that, or been conscious of it in my mid to late 20s, because I would have understood why certain things and why I was reacting, why I was being triggered the way I was. And it's much harder to change a belief or a pattern that we've had for 30, 40, 50 years than when you're in your 20s, right? So these are so imprinted and rooted in us. And again, that's where you have to make sure that you work on the muscle. And they're typically not things that change overnight. So again, that blue pill doesn't work. It's just, how can I integrate this practice every day in every area on small ways, not to get overwhelmed with a massive goal. So I would say that's number one. Number two, make time to invest and ask yourself the question, like, what do I want my relationship with love to be? And what does love actually mean to me? Because if your relationship with love as home, you saw your parents being verbally abusive to each other, screaming at each other, you grew up thinking that's normal because it's what you've seen. You just subconsciously register that. So you might now start attracting narcissistic partners. You might, scream and think in your relationship that that's normal to get a problem solved. So you need to really understand, what is that relationship with love, and going forward, what do you want it to be able to call it in? Because again, remember that triangle, big difference between what you think you want, what you attract, and what's actually right for you. And you really want to get to this space. And the only way to do that is ask yourself those really reflective questions.
Thank you very much for all these insights. Please let us know, where can our listeners reach you, and where can they order your book?
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, my website, www.raiseyourlovesignal.com, is where you can find all of my information, including all of the different social platforms that I'm on. I'm most active on Instagram currently. So my name is Chantal.Landreville. You can also buy my book. There's a pop-up on the website that will come up. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and all the different areas. The links are there. So get the book. It's a great read. It's a short read. I wanted to create something that was small so we can reread often. It's almost what I call like a night table book. And there's some great reflective exercises in there that will help you in your journey to love, whether you're single, whether you're already in relationship, or whether you're really struggling with love with yourself, because this is a key factor to also making sure you have healthy relationships. It starts with yourself first. So I talk about all of that stuff in the book.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you for being my guest tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Faleskini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleskini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleskini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleskini or listen to the Ask Faleskini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.